Your soulmate saying, "I never thought I'd have to say this to you. My beloved child." Don't skip, because the words you are about to hear were never supposed to leave your soulmate's heart. They kept repeating the same sentence over and over, hoping they would never have to say it out loud. But today, something changed. Something they could no longer hide behind silence. Their hands trembled, their thoughts refused to stay calm, and for the first time they whispered, "I never thought I'd have to say this to you." The moment those words escaped their lips, every wall they had built around their emotions began to crack. They realized that pretending was becoming more painful than telling the truth. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. What happened after that sentence was spoken was so unexpected that even they could not believe the direction their hearts suddenly chose. Every memory they tried to bury started returning one by one, not as regrets, but as reminders that you had never truly left their soul. They searched for excuses to move on, yet every excuse disappeared the moment your name crossed their mind. They wanted to stay silent forever, but silence was no longer protecting them. It was only making them lose the one person they secretly wished would understand everything without a single explanation. For days they convinced themselves that distance would erase these feelings. They believed time would make your presence fade like an old photograph forgotten inside a drawer. Instead, the opposite happened. Every ordinary moment became strangely connected to you. A familiar song. A passing conversation. A place they never expected to remember. Everything somehow carried your shadow. Don't skip, because this is where everything begins to change. They started asking themselves questions they had avoided for far too long. What if walking away was the biggest mistake? What if the connection they kept denying was the one thing they were never meant to lose? Those questions refused to disappear. They followed them into quiet mornings, busy afternoons, and sleepless nights. The truth became impossible to ignore. They were not afraid of loving you anymore. They were afraid of never getting another chance to tell you how deeply your absence had changed them. And just when they thought they could hide these emotions one more day, an unexpected moment forced them to face everything they had been running from. Then came the moment no one saw coming. A single discovery stopped them completely. It was small enough for the world to overlook, yet powerful enough to shake every certainty they had left. Suddenly they understood why every path they chose somehow circled back to thoughts of you. It was never coincidence. It was never random. It was the realization they had been resisting from the very beginning. They quietly admitted to themselves that their greatest fear was not rejection, it was arriving too late. That is why those unforgettable words escaped their heart, "I never thought I'd have to say this to you." Because they finally understood that some truths become heavier every day they remain unspoken. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. What they are preparing to reveal next is far bigger than an apology, far deeper than a confession, and far more surprising than anyone could imagine. The next decision they make will change everything, and once it happens, nothing between you and them will ever feel the same again. A restless feeling refused to leave them after that realization. No matter where they went or who they spoke to, one thought continued echoing inside their mind. They kept asking themselves whether they had already waited too long. Every hour that passed felt heavier than the last, because they finally understood that some opportunities never return once they disappear. Don't skip, because the next few moments reveal why their heart is racing faster than ever before. They replayed every conversation they had with you, searching for hidden signs they had ignored. They remembered the kindness they once took for granted, the quiet support they never properly appreciated, and the moments when you understood them without demanding explanations. Those memories no longer felt ordinary. They suddenly became priceless. Something huge is waiting for you, because while everyone around them believed they were perfectly fine, a completely different story was unfolding inside. They stopped pretending they were unaffected. They stopped convincing themselves that moving forward without you was easy. Instead, they admitted the one truth they had spent so long denying: your absence had quietly become the loudest silence in their entire life. The more they tried to escape these emotions, the stronger they became, until they finally reached a point where they could no longer ignore what their own heart was demanding. Then an unexpected encounter changed everything. It was not dramatic. It was not planned. Yet it carried a message powerful enough to shake every doubt they still held. A stranger spoke words that sounded strangely familiar. A simple sentence reminded them of something you once said, and suddenly every unfinished emotion rushed back at once. They froze, realizing that life had been placing reminders in front of them for much longer than they had noticed. Stay till the end, because this was only the beginning. That single moment made them stop running from the truth. Instead of asking why they kept thinking about you, they started asking why they had been trying so hard not to. Every answer pointed in the same direction. They realized they had been protecting themselves from disappointment while unknowingly pushing away the person who made them feel the most alive. That discovery frightened them more than anything else. They understood that waiting for the perfect moment had become an excuse, and every delay was creating a distance neither of you truly wanted. For the first time, they accepted that courage was no longer optional. If they stayed silent now, they might spend the rest of their life wondering what could have happened if they had simply spoken from the heart. As night quietly settled once again, they made a decision that even surprised them. They promised themselves they would stop hiding behind fear, stop pretending nothing had changed, and stop carrying emotions that deserve to be spoken instead of buried. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. They are preparing themselves for a conversation they never imagined they would have. Every word has been rehearsed 1,000 times inside their mind, yet they still wonder whether their voice will shake when the moment finally arrives. They know this conversation has the power to change everything forever. It could heal old distance, answer long unspoken questions, and open a completely new chapter neither of you expected. But there is one sentence they still haven't found the courage to say aloud, a sentence so honest, so deeply personal, that once it is spoken, there will be no turning back. And that single sentence is about to become the most unforgettable moment of this entire story. A new morning arrived, but peace never did. Instead, your soulmate woke up with the strange feeling that time was no longer waiting for them. Every minute felt like a silent countdown toward a moment they could no longer avoid. They stood in front of a mirror, looking calm on the outside while their heart carried a storm no one else could see. Don't skip, because what happened next was the exact moment they realized there was no returning to the person they used to be. They picked up their phone more than once, typed a message, stared at every word, and then erased it before anyone could read it. It happened again, and again, and again. The fear was never about saying the wrong thing. The fear was that after everything they had hidden for so long, the truth might arrive too late. Something huge is waiting for you. Every unfinished sentence made them understand one painful reality: they had spent so much time protecting themselves that they had forgotten how to fight for the person who truly mattered. The silence they once believed was keeping them safe had quietly become the very thing pushing them farther away from you. That realization struck harder than anything they had ever experienced, because for the first time they admitted that losing you was no longer just a possibility, it had become their greatest fear. Without expecting it, another sign appeared. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. Yet it felt impossible to ignore. A familiar place suddenly reminded them of a moment they thought had disappeared forever. They remembered a smile they could never replace, a conversation that had seemed ordinary back then but now carried an entirely different meaning. Every forgotten detail returned with incredible clarity, almost as if their own heart had been saving those memories for this exact day. Stay till the end, because this changed everything inside them. They finally understood why no new beginning had ever felt complete. Every road they explored somehow led back to the same destination, you. They stopped blaming fate. They stopped blaming circumstances. Instead, they accepted responsibility for every moment they allowed fear to speak louder than honesty. The truth became impossible to escape. They weren't searching for someone new anymore. They were searching for the courage to face the person who had unknowingly become the center of every future they secretly imagined. That single realization filled them with both hope and uncertainty, because they knew one honest conversation could either heal everything, or change both of your lives forever. As evening quietly approached, they made one final promise to themselves. This time it was different from every promise before, because it came without excuses, without hesitation, and without another plan to postpone the truth. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. They decided that the next time your paths crossed, they would no longer hide behind polite words or unfinished feelings. They would finally reveal the sentence that had been trapped inside their heart for far too long. But just as they gathered the courage to move forward, something completely unexpected happened. A piece of information reached them that stopped them in their tracks. It wasn't bad news. But it was powerful enough to make them question whether destiny had been quietly arranging this moment all along. Their heartbeat grew faster. Their hands froze once again. And at that exact second, they whispered, "If this is true, then I can't wait any longer." What they discovered in that moment is far bigger than they ever imagined, and the next step they take will reveal a truth capable of changing everything between you forever. Everything changed the instant they learned that unexpected truth. It wasn't a dramatic announcement or a message from someone else. It was a quiet realization that settled deep inside their heart and refused to leave. For the first time, they stopped asking whether you still remembered them and started asking whether they were brave enough to deserve another chance. Don't skip, because the next few moments explain why they could no longer keep pretending everything was normal. They walked through their day smiling at people, answering questions, finishing responsibilities, yet behind every ordinary action was one extraordinary thought: you. Every plan they made somehow included the possibility of meeting you again. Every future they imagined felt incomplete without your presence somewhere inside it. Something huge is waiting for you. They finally admitted that what they had been calling bad timing was actually fear wearing a different name. Fear had convinced them to stay silent. Fear had stolen opportunities they could never get back. But now that fear was losing its power, because another emotion had become stronger than all the doubts combined. That emotion was hope. Hope whispered that perhaps this story had not reached its ending after all. Perhaps every delay had only been preparing both of you for a moment that would be impossible to forget. As darkness covered the sky once more, they sat alone with thoughts they could no longer silence. Every memory returned with surprising clarity, but this time those memories no longer brought regret. Instead, they became reasons to keep moving forward. They remembered every moment when your kindness appeared exactly when they needed it, every conversation that stayed in their heart long after it ended, and every small detail they once overlooked but now treasured more than anything else. Stay till the end, because what they decided next surprised even them. They opened their heart completely, not to another person, but to themselves. They admitted they had been waiting for life to create the perfect opportunity, when in reality the perfect opportunity had been waiting for them to become honest. That realization filled them with a strange sense of peace. They no longer wanted to hide behind uncertainty or wonder forever about what could have happened. They wanted answers, even if those answers required courage they had never shown before. For the first time in a very long while, they stopped imagining impossible endings and started believing that impossible beginnings could actually become real. Then, just before the night ended, something happened that neither they nor anyone around them expected. A tiny detail appeared, so small that almost anyone else would have ignored it. But to them it felt like the final missing piece of a puzzle they had been trying to solve for far too long. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. In that single moment, every hesitation disappeared. Their heart became calmer than it had been in months, not because all the questions had been answered, but because one decision had finally been made. They would no longer allow another day to pass without revealing what had been hidden inside them from the very beginning. The words they once feared had now become impossible to hold back. They took one deep breath, looked toward the future they had almost abandoned, and quietly whispered, "Tomorrow, everything changes." They have already chosen what they are going to say. They have already decided what they are going to do. But the first words that will leave their lips tomorrow are so unexpected, so deeply personal, and so life-changing, that once you hear them, you will understand why they once said, "I never thought I'd have to say this to you." The sunrise did not bring them hesitation this time. It brought certainty. They woke up with a calmness they had not felt in what seemed like forever, as though their heart had finally stopped fighting against itself. But that peace lasted only a few moments, because another realization arrived almost immediately. They understood that once they spoke the truth, there would be no hiding behind silence ever again. Don't skip, because this is where everything begins to move faster than anyone expected. They looked at the message they had rewritten countless times, reading every line as if it carried the weight of their entire future. Each word felt too small to describe everything they had kept locked away. They wanted you to know that every distance, every unanswered question, and every quiet goodbye had never erased what they truly felt. Instead, those moments had only made their feelings impossible to ignore. Something huge is waiting for you. They finally accepted that life had been giving them chance after chance, but fear had kept convincing them to wait for one more day. Now there were no more excuses. No more delays. Only one decision remained. To finally tell you what had been living inside their heart from the very beginning, even if it changed everything forever. Just when they were ready to take that step, something completely unexpected happened. A conversation they never planned to hear revealed a truth that left them speechless. Someone unknowingly reminded them of the person they used to be before fear took control of their life. In that moment, they realized how much they had changed. And how much of that change had been connected to you. Stay till the end, because the biggest revelation has not happened yet. They stopped asking themselves whether they deserved another opportunity. Instead, they began wondering whether destiny had been protecting this moment until both hearts were finally ready. Every unanswered question suddenly started making sense. Every delay seemed to have a purpose they could only understand now. Their heartbeat grew stronger, not from anxiety, but from hope. They could almost picture the moment your eyes met again, the silence before the first word, and the feeling that neither of you would ever need to pretend again. For the first time, they believed that honesty was stronger than fear, and that one sincere conversation could accomplish what months of silence never could. Then came the final preparation before everything changes. They closed their eyes for a brief moment and imagined what would happen after the truth was finally spoken. Surprisingly, they were no longer afraid of the answer. They were only afraid of leaving those words unspoken forever. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. They whispered the sentence one last time, making sure it came from the deepest place in their heart. I never thought I'd have to say this to you. But losing the chance to tell you how much you truly mean to me would be the greatest mistake of my life. The instant those words left their lips, every burden they had carried began to disappear. They knew there was still one final step left, and it was closer than ever. A meeting, a message, or a moment neither of you could predict was already approaching. The next chapter will reveal what happens when they finally stop hiding and place their entire heart in front of you without holding anything back. And when that moment arrives, neither of your lives will ever follow the same path again.